Hello and welcome to another episode of Embrace All of You Where Goddess and Body Meet. This is your hostess, Dr. Mary Pritchard, and I am thrilled to have with us today Jan Deelstra. She is really a soul sister at heart, and we have a lot of things in common, and I'm just so excited that she is here to share her wisdom with us today. Jan is a women's empowerment life coach and consultant. She's also an award-winning transformational author. Jan has been leading the charge for empowering women since 1984. Her spiritual quest for answers came long before that, when her brother died suddenly in his sleep from what the coroner eventually labeled unknown natural causes. Merging the spiritual with formal education, Jan uses her background in psychology and human behavior, her experiences with seemingly miraculous forces, her intuitive gifts, and her insatiable calling to write to inspire and empower women. In short, she helps women transform struggles into strengths, liberating them to follow their true calling. Jan is the author of several transformational books designed to enlighten and entertain. Most notably, her books include Escaping the Chrysalis, Introduction to Gestalt Techniques for Self-Esteem Transformation, Escaping the Chrysalis Companion Workbook, Flying Game, and Blessings in the Mire, A True Story of Miracles and Recollections. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Mary. My goodness, I don't think I even need to talk. You just told it all. It's really a pleasure. I'm honored to be here with you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's truly my pleasure.
So you've been doing this for a long time. And I know that your journey has kind of been a winding path. You mentioned, earlier the beautiful goddess angel behind you. You used to have an angel store. You lost your brother at a very young age. So can you tell us kind of how you got to be on this path, how it's curved and morphed over the years, and really how you got to do what you're doing today?
Mary, that's a really full-bodied question, but I'm going to give you the brief because I am older than, I've been here for a long while on this journey, this earth journey. I will tell you, though, the milestones are when my brother died for unknown natural causes. He was my best friend, and his birthday was 2 days after mine and 2 years after mine. So we shared birthdays. We came from a pretty rough upbringing. My mother and father were married. I was the third child. My dad died in a plane accident. My mother was pregnant with my brother that then eventually died in his sleep. So for my mother, that was it had to be challenging. It had to be horrific.
Yeah.
At any rate, to shorten that story, we were put in foster homes, and my brother and I were always in the same foster home, but we were split up. The others were split away from us, so we were together all that time. So when he died of unknown natural causes, all of my dogma, all the theology I'd been immersed in, traditional religion, was gone. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe if there was a God. I wanted to know a God that would just take my best friend and my brother for nothing, no reason. And so it was really my ground zero. And at that point, I was also a single mom, 3 kids, and I was driving truck for the Teamsters Union because it paid. Mm-hmm. And as a mom, a single mom, I hadn't even finished high school. I was, pregnant, married at 17. So my life took some rough turns, and every single one of them were a step on the ladder to where I am today, and I don't regret any of it. That's where the book Blessings in the Mire came from, because when you look back, all of the things that we go through are really just part of a perfect, bigger mosaic. And so for me, even the death of my brother was something that eventually I learned to find a blessing for. Mm-hmm. And it was my ground zero. It was where I began to really study spirituality as opposed to religion, to dogma, to the patriarchal stuff I'd been immersed in. I was from Salt Lake City, Utah originally. It's a very traditional place. And so, when my father died, my mother had what was she going to do?
Yeah.
Get married, and she had 3.5 kids. So it didn't happen. She just, she fell apart. And I had forgiven her, years and years ago for that, because eventually she did get it back together, and we did reunite with her. And again, all those pieces made for who I am. And so I learned to turn struggles into strengths, and that's what I help other women to do. So that's kind of the long way around. But
yeah. Let's take a step back.
Okay.
So when your brother died, you were angry, you were, there can't be a God, because why would he take away my brother?
Absolutely.
What happens for you to push through that anger and really start to reconnect with spirituality and really find yourself?
Well, okay, now that is a deep story. I will tell you, though, that too was, all of that is what really, I have to go ahead a little bit.
Go for it.
In 1995, my son died. So I had, at the time I owned the Angel Store. I was surrounded by people who were seeking solace. I was the one offering solace. When he died, I was the one needing solace. But I was surrounded by a lot of people who cared about me. And so it was really beautiful. And I had full bookshelves in my store of anything I wanted to read. And that's what I did. I immersed in books. So when my brother died, going back to there, when he died, I didn't have the luxury of the Angel Store or of that support system. I had only me. But divine guidance takes us places that we don't even know we're being guided. I ended up in a continuing education class in a junior high school that was psychic awareness. I took that and learned a lot that was, and I didn't believe in anything, not, life after death, but then I began to notice all of these miracles that took place, things that happened that I filled a book, literally filled a book with, Lessons in a Mire, that goes through that evolution, as well as when my son died again, more evolution. And it just, again, it's all of turning those struggles into strengths, taking everything and going deep inside to where our little inner goddess is and our most divine wisdom comes from. And I also was blessed in between that span to be invited to attend a Gestalt. It was a self-awareness and assertiveness training class. And long story short, I learned a ton, but they ended up hiring me. So I worked there for 11 years with the Department of Human Services, empowering women. So all of that kind of is a woven threads to my tapestry. And again, every single piece is part of that.
So the Gestalt therapy that you were doing, was that before the Angel Store, or was that at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, the reason I opened it, they overlap at the end, but I was really burned out on social issues that therapists see that you don't necessarily want to spend the whole rest of your life. I was jaded.
Yeah.
And one of my interns, I was also a graduate school placement because we covered everything that you could possibly, human issues. One of my graduate students said to me, "The rest of the world is not like this." And I understood that I had become too jaded. I've been there too long. And so that's when I took it and transformed it into a personal, private practice where I could then take those to a broader audience, still women, and not necessarily women who were quite so in so much mire that some of them were. Because I worked with little girls as young as 9 and 10 years old that were pregnant. I mean, things that you just don't, that I didn't even think happened. I didn't have a clue. In the United States of America, really, no idea. But so I'd given so much that I was really, really spent. And so I thought, well, I can open a little Angel Store. People say, they joke, oh, I'm going to open a small business, engine repair shop. My small engine repair shop was an Angel Store. And I saw a video, actually, that was hosted by Patty Duke Austin. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I think it was called Mysterious Messengers. And there was a little girl, it was stories of angelic miracles. A little girl, Mallory Shreves, was dying of cancer. She was 8 or 9 years old, and the treatment made her just bloat right up like a little cherub. And she talked about going to the clouds, and the clouds would taste like whatever she wanted, ice cream if she wanted. And she was so precious, and she looked right at me through that video and said, "Believe it, because it's true. It really is." And she touched my hand like the hand of God, and that was when I knew I was opening an angel store and I was going to leave Department of Human Services and be done with that. But it's just another layer, another way of reaching the same audience in a little more spiritual way. And so it really was it was the blossom of the entire thing.
So then you open your angel store, and then you're faced with the loss of your son.
Yes. After a couple of years of owning the angel store, my son died, and it was 18 months after that I handed my keys to the new owners, loaded a U-Haul, and moved to San Diego. And still growing, still thriving, but very damaged.
Yeah.
As, a member of this new club of mothers who've lost children. And that was the hardest thing I've ever had to transform from that, because that is the deepest struggle, the deepest pain a mother will ever know. Yeah. So I did work really, really, really hard, again, deep inside, where all of our wisdom is, and I learned to meditate to a point where, honestly, Mary, otherworldly chants came through me, and I began to sing this song that came from somewhere so deep, I could never sing it to you again.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I was singing this song that was sound. And all of these little miracles were happening all around me. And again, they're all Lessons in the Mind, my very first book I ever wrote. I've probably got 20 out there now, but they're all in there. Not all of them. A lot of the miracles are in there. I also had a ton of miracles happen during the angel store, and when I looked back, during the time when my brother died. So it's all of those into it, and that's how I made sense of it all, and that's how I made it empower me, was to redefine and understand that we are all whole. That's the meaning of Gestalt. I'm sure you know that. So we're all whole, and so when to embrace our wholeness is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
It's the ignorant, the intelligent, it's all of it. And somewhere along the line, we're all born perfect. We're all born perfectly whole, Gestalt. And little by little, life chinks at us. Institutions like schools and religions, whatever, culture, family, all of it puts little chinks in us. And pretty soon we're not that whole entity that we were born as. We're either pink or we're blue before we're even out. We're something. We're already predefined when we're coming through.
Yeah.
So I finally learned through all of those episodes that I'm not broken. I've disowned parts, and some I will consciously, intentionally disown, and others I will claim and re-own because they are my strength. And when a mother loses a child, or someone loses a sibling, or a best friend, or whatever, loss, any kind of loss, not necessarily death, but certainly death is one of the most empowering lessons that it teaches us more than anything we ever go through, I believe.
Yeah.
So I understood that all of that was an inner journey, and it's scary. There are so many women I've had through the years, clients who have, I do a little exercise where I have them look into the mirror and describe what they see. And sometimes they go running out of the room and they never come back. Other times it's the moment between then and now. It's the moment where they absolutely emerge from their cocoon, from their into their full essence is with that simple little mirror. And the same went for me when I looked into the deep mirror inside of me and found what the truth is, what I own is being me, and what I won't own and what I no longer will tolerate. That's when I knew. That's where my strength totally came from. Mm-hmm. And still does.
So you talk about the cocoon, and I know a couple of your books talk about escaping the chrysalis. What is the chrysalis? What is the cocoon that we are escaping from? Is it society's views of us? Is it that
all of it? I think it's all of it, Mary, because when you think, particularly, I think women, way back before the brother died, all of that, and I told you I was a truck driver for a few years with the Teamsters Union. I learned some lessons there. I worked with nothing but men then. And I thought, oh, there's no way there's no way I could work with women. They're catty, they're this, they're that. I bought into all that stuff, right? And then, when I finally got out of that men's world, traditional men's work, what I understood is I learned a lot about me physically and intellectually, because I learned how to change tires on semi-trailer trucks, stuff that, a lot of men don't know how to change tires on a regular car. So it was all of this gender stuff I had to sort through. Yeah. And it was the 70s and 80s, and that's, I was really a novelty. I'd have people jump out of their cars and look at me, I would wear a pink hard hat so, they wouldn't get confused. But I think that all of those lessons of inner strength, I learned how to leverage my 115-pound body to break loose love nuts, and how to use my mind instead of my brawn when, jealous wives showed up wanting to know why there was a woman on the job. And so, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like we were looking at each other back then like we were smelling onions or worse. So I think we've come a long way, and I think we continue. I really love what the Dalai Lama said about Western women will be, we are the ones that will change the world.
But I think there's a caveat to that, right? I mean, Western women are the ones that are going to change the world, but it's not the catty Western woman who's jealous of you because you're working alongside her husband, right? It's the women who, like you, have learned to escape the chrysalis, who have really found themselves.
It's all about empowerment. I can barely see your face right now. I don't know if you're pixelating a lot.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm still escaping the chrysalis. I think for me it was because it started with a parable. You've probably heard it. The parable about there was a really kind gentleman, and he was watching a little butterfly trying to escape, try to break free from her little chrysalis, from that cocoon. And he just couldn't stand watching her struggle. So he got his little clippers and he cut loose, helped her to get out of it. Well, the truth is she never flew. Because what happens in a butterfly is they have to squeeze through that chrysalis, and it pushes these juices into their wings and builds a strength. And I think of women that way. It's like without the struggles, who are we? Mm. Without the bad, how do we know the good? Mm-hmm. Without the contrast, how do we really see the whole Gestalt picture? Yeah. And so to me, that's where the escaping the chrysalis comes from. You break loose, but you own those strengths that you get from that struggle to break free.
Right.
Breaking free of whatever it is.
Right. So one of the themes that it just keeps coming up in the summit, not necessarily in those words, but it's the same kind of theme, is this idea of victimhood. So I think there are a lot of people out there that they've come to the point where they realize that they are in the chrysalis or the cocoon, but they either don't want to escape or think that they can't escape.
Yes. Yes.
So as a coach, if a woman comes to you and she feels like she's stuck, but there's no other option, there's no easy way out, there's no, fill in the blank, how do you help her start to push out of that cocoon?
Oh, Mary, I have so many tools and such a process that helps them to just unfold, unfold, unfold. Because what it is, it all goes back to self-awareness, every single bit of it. Mm-hmm. Self-awareness, self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And as they learn more and more about who they are and own more about who they are, they then begin to get increases in self-esteem, increases in self-love, and on and on. And so it unfolds really naturally. And again, I've been doing it a long time, so maybe not so naturally, but to me it's just a natural process. I start exactly where they are now. Wherever they are, whoever they are subjectively, I start where they are. We start with a life map, past, present, future. And we see where they are. We have a lot of little community building, depending if it's a group or if it's individual coaching, because I do both. Individually, it's exactly where they're at and where we get from here to here. I mentioned before mirrors. I use dream interpretation. I help them to understand the messages from the dreams, because for me, that was one of the tools. When I learned that, I exploded with wisdom, because it's all based on projections. And I think as part of the free gift that I'm giving today, there's actually going to be a little a little audio about how to use projections to get some information. So it's a series of little exercises. And as far as Escaping the Chrysalis was the book that I wrote, I also made a workbook. Mm-hmm. So even if they're not, and I don't want this to sound like an advertisement because that's not why I'm here. There are so many little exercises though, and that's just a quick way to start the process. Mm-hmm. And again, mirrors, looking in the mirror and being really, really honest and forgiving and not harsh, because we tend to all be our own worst enemies. Yes. And that's just not the way to do it. It all comes back to self-love. All of it, all of it, all of it, self-love. And again, that's when we go inside and we learn to nurture. Maybe we have a little girl in there, a little child who's wounded. We have to promise her we're going to take care of her. We have to start again where we're at. So whatever.
So let's talk about your free gift, since you just brought it up. Let's go ahead and dive into that. Because it is juicy and it is extensive and I love it. So
thank you.
Talk about your free gift and how it's going to help our viewers really start to blossom.
Awesome. Okay. What it is I've actually created an ebook, and I've also created 11 plus a bonus. So a dozen little short, under 15-minute audios, and they're all different tools for self-awareness, for owning the whole self. And I think it's the simplest way in the world is just to learn them, do them, practice them. Yeah. Comfort of your own home. You don't have me breathing down your neck. And yet I'm still there. If they need me, I'm here. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's called Awaken the Goddess, and it's just a way of going in and meeting your little goddess and learning to trust explicitly your own wisdom, as opposed to external validation that's always going to be wrong. So, yeah.
And self-trust or lack thereof, I think is such a huge problem, especially for women.
Yes.
So how do you address that? So when, because I know, just as I do, you get clients that come to you and they're at such a place of fear.
Yes.
And they don't trust the woman they see in the mirror. So how do you start to help them move past that?
Mary, transforming fear into fuel is what I say. We look at the fear, we see where it comes from. Mm-hmm. Where is it really learned from? Because it's probably somebody else's old message that the client bought. Maybe she learned to be afraid of her own whatever power, usually. Mm-hmm. And so when I can get a woman to look at where she learned it, then she can consciously, I do a lot of hot seat work and Gestalt and becoming it, and so she can actually identify what she gets for holding on to that fear, because there's always a reward or she wouldn't be holding on to it. And so when she identifies, oh, I don't really need that fear anymore. Maybe it was there to help protect her the way that our subconscious mind kind of gets something, oh, I'm not going to change because I can help you stay safe the way it is. Better the devil you know, my grandma said.
Exactly.
So I think that would be that's one of the things, is just to get them, again, self-awareness. You start with self-awareness, and you understand you can just take all the thunder out of that fear monster by identifying what it really is. It's just an old memory, old message.
Yeah, and and you were talking earlier about how we tend to be our own worst enemies instead of our own best friends, and it's really it's our own inner critic, it's our own inner mean girl that's doing it. But usually, I mean, every client I've ever worked with, including myself, I mean, it's not really that she's mean; it's that she's afraid.
She's
and
afraid.
It's that childhood pattern when you were 5 or 8 or whatever, where this emerged. And so I love that you take people back there and be like, okay, where did this start?
Yeah.
Why did it emerge?
And then trash it
out of it. And then because the majority of the time, what worked when you were 5 actually doesn't work today.
No, and the logic is a little better now too. I hope. But I think that people have a lot of war stories. You know what? Just a lot of stories about things, and once they kind of diffuse those stories and see that they can recreate the story, they can give themselves the love they didn't have, or diminish the fear that they feel by identifying it and then transforming it, like I said, into fuel to propel them into the future that they really want to have, as opposed to the one that they've gotten stuck in with inertia. Because I'm all about get your self-love, get your self-esteem, and blast off. And I'm not kidding, Mary, that you know as well as I do that how beautiful that feels. That's what we never burn out from.
Yeah.
Never.
The day I realized that life happens for you and not to you, changed my life.
Yes.
Because once you switch from victim mode and woe is me and I can't do anything about this, because you feel so helpless.
Yes.
And it's to realize that you can use that struggle, trauma, grief, whatever happened, as fuel. Oh my gosh, the world opens up to you.
Yes. And everything comes either from a place of fear or love. That's it. You got fear and you got love. So what are you going to choose really when you're conscious, right? If you really want to live a great life, come from a place of love, including to the self.
Yeah.
And first, put that oxygen on, that self-love first, and then worry about anything else.
Because so many of us don't, right? We're too busy taking care of everybody else.
Yes, because we've been taught that, and we have to understand that it's just like me working for the Department of Human Services for that, that huge period of my life where I just gave and gave and gave. And pretty soon, I had no oxygen left. I had to find the escape route. And then redefine it my way, without the bureaucracy, without all of those rules and regulations, and without a stick, more from a place of love and giving, and also learning to receive, because my clients feed me that that energy is reciprocal, and I love them and they love me, and that's way better than living in that fear place.
So for the women who are watching us right now and really resonate with this message, and they say, yes, sign me up, which you can get Jam's free gift by clicking below us, but they want to start today. What is one small but powerful thing that they can do today that will really help awaken them and really start that propulsion that they need to get out of that chrysalis?
Okay, because the free gift is a series of tools, I'm going to give one that's not included, a different one. This one I just call Sacred Heart Chamber, because I learned that the heart is actually the first place of intelligence. Way before we grew that big cerebral front, we had a heart that had intelligence, and we still do. Most of us have gone clear up here, cerebral, and forget that we have this really divine intelligence right here. So I have a little exercise that I do pretty much at least once a day, sometimes 3 and 4 times, depending on what's going on. And I just call it the Sacred Heart Chamber. I go in there, and if it works better for the listeners to just consciously go into their third eye, go into their mind, and just kind of pull that mind right down into the heart. And then just be there with it for just a moment and breathe deep into it. And just feel that Sacred Heart Chamber. That's where all your wisdom is, right in that Sacred Heart Chamber. And so when you have any kind of a question, any kind of an issue, a challenge, a problem, go into your little sacred space and just be with you. Just be. That's all you need to do. You don't need to chant or sing or consciously meditate. Just be there with you. Because this is where your inner goddess actually is. This is the place where we connect. This is where your strength all comes from. So I just encourage you just to be there, be here now, in this moment. Take deep breaths. And feel the true core of who you are. This is you.
Oh, I love that.
It's your divine space.
Yeah.
And it really is so empowering, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Anybody, anyone, any socioeconomic status, anyone can do this.
Yeah.
And it's so grounding and so brings us right into the present. And I really think as I watch and observe people, I notice a lot of old stories going on, a lot of noise. It's so empowering to go to that inner space. Just go there, be there with you. That's the first and most important thing we would do. Because again, it's all about self-awareness. And what better way than to get, and it's not intimidating. It's not nearly as challenging looking in the mirror or some of the other things that we do.
Yeah. But I love that. I mean, you're literally getting out of your own way and taking your mind down into your heart.
Exactly. And it's just it's a really peaceful, safe place too. And I go there and I speak with my little inner child sometimes when I know that she's needing some reassurance. I'll go in there and have a little conversation with me.
I love that. Oh, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Oh, I feel like so much more peaceful now.
Good. Oh, Mary,
and I cannot believe we are already out of time.
Oh, well, it's been so great.
Thank you so much for being with us today,
It's
Jan.
my pleasure. My pleasure, Mary. Thank you so much.
And thank you to all of our viewers for being with us today. And I think our message of the day is go down into that sacred heart space and just hang out there for a little while.
Yeah.
And just get comfortable being. That's really it. Being, right? Being.
Exactly. Can I just share my motto?
Please.
Okay. I just want everyone listening or watching to know you are not broken, and you have only one purpose in this life, and that is to learn to love every facet of who you are.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And from then on, you just blossom. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, truly.
Oh, wonderful wisdom. So tune in tomorrow for more fabulous wisdom from more fabulous guests. This is Dr. Mary and Jan Deelstra. Again, you can get her free gift right below this video and really start taking steps to connect in. And learn to awaken that inner goddess and to really connect in with you and be the fabulous woman that you were meant to be. So thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.